Yes,
Start.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
I'm glad that you joined us. So let's continue that right after we finish the class. Louis, would you please start the recording of the class? Okay, it started. Well, peace, salam, and shalom, and welcome to all of you in our spring 2022 session of Interfaith Explorations. This is a program of the Interfaith Center of Arkansas. My name is Sophia Said. I'm the executive director and your host every Wednesday. Along with me is our facilitator, our teacher, Dr. J. McDaniels, author, theologian, dear friend, a professor of world religions for over 30 years at Hendrix, and who has been our beloved teacher for this class for the last almost 2 years now. And of course, we have Lois Smith with us, who is the administrator of the Interfaith Center and who's working behind the scenes to make sure the class happens flawlessly. So, the purpose of these classes that we started back in 2019 is to have open discussions about faith and spirituality, to discover the interconnectedness of human race and nature, and build relationships, empathy, and a deep understanding of each other as religious and spiritual human beings. We started 2 years ago, and since then, we have explored lots of different themes. Those of you who are new to join us, we discussed world religions, we talked about spiritual alphabet, we talked about daily experiences of human life, such as food, silence, dreams, parenting, healing, medicine. We talked about world religions along with Abrahamic faiths. We spent a long time on art, music, and poetry, which continues to be Jay's and mine's. I hope Jay's, but definitely mine's favorite theme. So, for this session, we decided that we will pick a very modern form of art as a tool for our discussion on spirituality. And that modern form of art is moving images instead of still images, or moving images, aka film or movie. Because when it comes to spirituality, I believe we are taught not only by other people or books, but also by work of art, and movies has had such a strong impact on many of us, and they bring a lot of joy in our lives. And the good thing is that we will be sharing our joy with each other. So, the way this class will work is that we will meet for 8 weeks. Today is our first session. During the class, I would like you to keep your mics on mute unless you're speaking, because we are recording these classes. And for those of you who cannot be in a specific session and do want to see it later on, you can request the recording and Louis will be sending it to you. As far as the class format is concerned, Jay and I decided to use the same format that we used in last summer, and which is very much based on co teaching. So we will all be co teaching each other. Each one of you has an opportunity to pick one of the sessions, and if you have and teach with us. So what we ask is that if you have a movie or a film that speaks to you, or that has shaped you in one way or another, that has touched you or left an impact on you, pick that movie, reserve one of the Wednesdays classes for you. You can also use the website Spirituality and Practice, which is our primary resource for these classes, and pick a film review from there. And then send your name, the name of the movie, and the day that you want to present to Louis Smith, our administrator, and he will make sure that you will be presenting on that day. Every Wednesday, we will have two presenters. So we are going to start with this Wednesday, we're going to start with Jay and I. And we have already picked two movies that you all know about. And we will share a little bit of the movie. Then we will share our reflections. And then we will pose a question to you, which will serve as a springboard for conversation. And you all can join in that co teaching part of the class. So, having said that, I want to start with our first movie of the day. And Jay, would you please lead the class in that? Jay, you are on mute, so.
It's great to be with everybody here. And I want you to know that I don't think of myself as very versed in movies. And so if you happen to be in that boat, I'm your friend. I'm a real novice. But I also go to some movies, and they move me quite often. And I visit Spirituality and Practice, the website, often, and I read their movie reviews. And I find those very interesting. And they include trailers for the movies, those 5-minute teasers. And sometimes I'll watch a trailer and I'm almost in tears after the trailer. So the combination of the review and the movie trailer is a sermon for me. It's like a poem. It's an invitation for reflection. And so I just want to say to everybody, please don't think you have to be an expert. The movie that I've chosen for today is A Beautiful Mind. And that's a movie that I have seen. And I'm especially moved by the last scene in the movie. So I'll tell you the story in case you haven't seen it. It's the story of a really brilliant man. His name was John Nash, who was kind of a mathematician. And he also suffered from schizophrenia. And he taught at Princeton and became delusional and lost his job for a while. But his work was so good that he ended up receiving a Nobel Prize. And he did get to teach again at Princeton. But the way that he was able to walk that path of schizophrenia and walk through his delusions and stand up on the stage and receive the Nobel Prize was made possible by his partner, by his wife, by Alicia. That was her name. And she helped him claim a side of his life that he had not known in advance. And that is the wisdom of his own heart and of heart bonds. So the phrase "a beautiful mind" could easily be translated into "a beautiful heart." And she helped him discover that. So what I'm going to do is to show you the last scene of the movie where he receives the Nobel Prize, and watch the relationship between John Nash and Alicia as he receives the prize. That's what we'll be talking about. Lewis, ready to go.
Thank you. I've always believed in numbers, and the equations and logics that lead to reason. But after a lifetime of such pursuits, I ask, what truly is logic? Who decides reason? My quest has taken me through the physical, the metaphysical, the delusional, and back. And I have made the most important discovery of my career. The most important discovery of my life. It is only in the mysterious equations of love that any logical reasons can be found. I'm only here tonight because of you. You are the reason I am. You are all my reasons. Thank you.
call for the car then.
Are you ready to go now?
Yes, I am. Yes, indeed, and yes, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What is it? What's wrong?
Nothing. Nothing at all. Come with me, young lady. The car outside. We're interested in a ride.
Where's exactly?
How many of you have seen that movie? Okay. 2 times. More than that, maybe. 3 times. So if you read some of the material in Spirituality and Practice, they give discussion questions on that particular film. And I discovered with their help, 3 themes that I thought we might want to just talk about briefly. One is, in their words, on not making the intellect God. And we can live in a world, we can live in a society that so stresses the intelligence of the mind, information, cleverness, capacity to deal with ideas. But it's kind of cerebral cortex up. And we can even make a God of that. It can be the central organizing principle of our lives. So that's one lesson that John Nash had to learn. That his intellect, as sharp as it was by no means the source of all wisdom. A second theme related is called the hatching of the heart. The hatching, Hatching, the hatching of the heart. And really, what a beautiful phrase. How hearts, my heart, your heart, all hearts can be hatched. They don't just emerge full blown. They don't just emerge, fully capable of empathy and wisdom. They can be hatched. It has to grow. And related to the theme of the hatching of the heart is the question, how are hearts hatched? And one thing you find in A Beautiful Mind is his heart was hatched with help from someone who loved him and who stuck by him through thick or thin, through delusion, all kinds of craziness. And she loved him. And so it reminds us, and you and me alike, to think of the people in your life who have helped hatch your heart. A mother, a father, a partner, a child, a friend. And to think of them not only as beloved companions, but as heart hatchers. And you're obviously grateful for that. They're heart hatchers. You couldn't be you without them. And you're just thankful. A third theme is related to John Nash's discovery of what in his words, true logic is, true reason is, true understanding is. Rumi has a line somewhere, the only lasting beauty is the beauty of the heart. The only lasting beauty is the beauty of the heart. And when John Nash's heart was hatched, he discovered a kind of wisdom that far superseded information, far superseded cleverness, far superseded philosophy, theology, sociology, all the ologies. The only deep beauty. So those are the themes that I myself get from that last scene. And I think about them all the time. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to that film. I'm grateful for that scene, for being in the Christian tradition, we talk about holy icons. An icon is something through which holy light shines. Well, a movie can be a holy icon. A scene in a movie can be a holy icon. That one is for me. Now, how about for you? If you've seen the movie 3 times or 2 times or 1 time, or you just saw that right there, what has that done for you? What did you learn from A Beautiful Mind that you appreciate?
One thing I'd like to share is at the close of the movie, there's a beautiful song, and I looked up the lyrics. And the title of the song was All Love Can Be. I will watch you in the darkness, show you love will see you through. When the bad dreams wake you crying, I'll show you all love can do, all love can do. I will watch through the night, hold you in my arms, give you dreams where no one will be. I will watch through the dark till the morning comes. For the lights will take you through the night to see all love, showing us all love can be. I will guard you with my bright wings, stay till your heart learns to see all love can be. And the tune is just very lyrical and outstanding. And my comment is that this movie, which I did see, back in 2001 or whenever it first came out, is that I think it's a beautiful statement on how a person can overcome their problems that I guess we call mental illness, but I would rather think of it as a way to get to mental health. And I think in addition to his medications and his psychotherapy or whatever else Mr. Nash got, it seems to me that he tried very hard to ignore these delusions and to not let them overtake his life again, even though in his mind he could still feel them. And I read a review on the movie that said that probably all of that was in his mind. He might not have actually visually seen these people, but you know, they wanted it to be that way on film so you could understand what was going on in his head. And that's just very powerful to me, to speak to our mental health in a realistic and powerful way, and not as a handicap. As we all know, there are so many people, particularly now, that are in distress, and we need to show them that love is the light and love is the way, and that they are to be loved despite, whatever they may be going through.
Thanks, Tina. By the way, in that last scene when he saw those 3 people and she said, "Oh, what do you see?" Those were his delusions. And you remember that he said, nothing. And then walked with her. Sheila.
Yeah, thank you for picking this film, for one thing. It is a beautiful film, and it always makes me cry at the end. I don't care how many times I've seen it. I just can't help in that last scene, just the tears just come. One of the things that struck me particularly today was the phrase, the mysterious equations of love
Yeah.
that he uses there. And being a mathematician, of course, you know, equations are always in his mind. And so that strikes me as very, just a very deep phrase, because to me, it shows that, you know, the heart has been a mystery to him. And I think it is to all of us. And that idea of, I love too that they use the title A Beautiful Mind, not a beautiful brain, where in the certainly in the Buddhist sense of mind, you have that combination of brain and heart and body are all in that equation. And I'm a very intuitive person and not a logic person, but I'm married to a very logical man with a very logical mind. And where at times that has certainly been the challenge in our relationship, it has also deepened our love of each other, just being able to explore that dichotomy that we live in all the time, because so often the way I express myself, for instance, is so different from the way he expresses himself. And we always get to a point where we actually have to discuss the fact that we approach things so differently. So this movie meant a lot to me for that reason.
As I watch the faces, as you say that, I'm married to someone that knows the world of the head very well. There were a few head nods there, so I think you're not the only couple
Right.
where there's that relationship.
Right.
Let's say about anybody else. The movie, Jerry.
Yeah. I saw it a long time ago. And I think I was struck by the role of a caregiver. And we dealt with Alzheimer's and a few other issues. Excuse me. But I think the role or the dynamic of being right versus effective may not be the right way to say that, but when you're around someone who is mentally deteriorating, it's easy to be critical of the difference in norms versus loving. I think that's a good message from this movie.
Amen, amen. And I have loved ones in that situation also. And so I'm sure many of us do, and I think we say a deep amen. Amen, amen. Anybody else on the movie, what it means to you, what it meant to you, or that scene? Sally? You're muted, Sally.
Thank you. First of all, extraordinary talent is often an extraordinary burden. We all have our skills and talents and limits, but there are some exceptional people like John Nash. And he had the loving support and treatment to deal with that and overcome it. But how many other geniuses don't? And I actually think it's a lot. We'll never know, but we all live, I assume, we have times when we wonder, what is the truth? What is real?
Mhm.
And not that I hear voices through my tin hat, but we all have our reality is shaped so much by what our framework is, by what our perspective is. And for all of us, it takes the framework of the context of people who love us to keep that perspective, to share that perspective, to know what's real among all of us. That's a hard thing to say, but
Thank you.
Carmen gets it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sally. Carmen. You're muted, Carmen.
There's so much here that all of you are sharing that's just amazing. I think many of us are incredibly grateful for the relationships we have with that deep love that changes us and enables us to grow and be all of who we can be. I recently did a week-long Enneagram seminar with many speakers. And there's something I'd like to share that spoke to me. The topic was Enneagram 9s, which I am. And the speaker was Sharon Wallen. And she said, all of us have the capacity for that deep, abiding love in many ways, not just relationship ways, but also in that way. But many times we don't have good teachers. We don't learn how to love without getting broken, damaged, hurt. We don't learn the tools we need to bring into relationship. And we don't have the teachers in the classrooms. To paraphrase what she says, is we jump all in with our love in our hearts and we give it all. And then we get hurt. We get just horribly hurt. And the conclusion we come to is the way not to be hurt is not to love. There was a period in my life where The Sounds of Silence was my theme song. Fortunately, I didn't stay there. But what she also said that is piquing my thoughts a lot right now is built into the love comes courage to keep testing, keep looking, keep learning, keep finding tools to enter into relationship in this sense of the movie and find a way to bring our hearts into the world, into love, and just be in that. That's a personal goal of mine, and I feel so far away from that. But I'm learning. So anyway, just pain, courage, tools, classrooms.
Thanks, Carmen. And thanks to everybody. We're going to turn to another movie in a moment. I'd like to say one thing with regard to what Jerry said. Jerry, having loved ones myself with Alzheimer's, and I'm sure many of us do, I've certainly discovered that sometimes it's important to enter into their world and not to normatize my world as something called normal. So sometimes the very idea of normal gets in the way of love, because the normal is always conventional normal or my normal. So I just want to say your comment reminded me of that love involves relativizing your idea of normal. A greater space. Now, with that said, any last comments on this movie? And then I'm going to turn it over to Sophia. Any last comments? Steve, are you about to say something?
Yes. Boy, and what Jerry shared really touched me personally. And, from the movie, love is a mysterious equation. And I think love can really only be experienced through relationship. And I don't remember who said it, but when they were talking about their loved ones, and my son Josh, who is still under hospice care and just lots of dementia and things setting in. And when I'm with him, there are so many times where what he is doing or saying is difficult for me to process. And what I keep hearing my heart whisper is, do you want to be right, or do you want to be with him? And it's a constant struggle, because I do want to be with him, but sometimes that idea of normalcy wins out, and my mind goes where my heart does not want to go. And the one thing about John Nash also, I feel like he never got over his illness, and I love that movie. He never got over his illness. He learned to live with it. And I think that's key, because so many times with ourselves and with our loved ones, what's going on in their lives, we're not going to get over that, but we can learn to live and to love and to be in relationship with them in the midst of it. So thank you, all of you, for what you shared. It really touched me.
Yeah, me too. Thanks to everybody. And Sophia?
Yeah, thank you, Steve, for this comment, because I think it's a very good segue into our next movie. For me, Avatar is all about love and mystery, if I may say. So we are going to talk about Avatar now, and Louis, if you have my trailer ready, give me a second. So this, I hope you all have seen the movie. If not all, at least most have seen the movie. Um, and I say that because it was really popular when it came. Give me 1 minute, Lois. So the movie is, of course, it's a big science fiction. It's action, adventure. It is a political movie in my mind, because it talks about colonialism, imperialism, war. But it's also very much a movie about our ecological systems. It's an environmental movie with a very strong message. But most of all, the movie is about connectivity among human beings and nature and universe. So the movie is set in 2154, when humans have exhausted our own resources on Earth. And since we have exhausted our own resources, we found this planet Pandora. Actually, it's a moon, Earth-sized moon. And there is this organization, Resource Development Authority, which ends up in Pandora to mine this mineral called unobtainium, which can be used as an energy source on Earth. But there is also this scientific and research team which is researching the ecology of Pandora, as well as a native population that lives there. So that native population is called Navi. And Louis is going to share a trailer and a very small clip from the movie to remind us about the movie, and then we will have a discussion about it. So Louis, would you please share the trailer and then the clip?
Easy boy.
Ale is female. Sultan.
Okay. Easy girl.
Sultan, Bale. Sultan. Sultan. That is Tahelu, the bond. Feel her. Feel her heartbeat, her breath. Feel her strong legs. You may tell her what to do inside. For now, say where to go.
Forward.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you for playing that. Can you fix our screen, Lois? Okay, so we don't have this special organ which Navi had at the end of their braids that connected them with the nature. But I do believe that was a very important part of this movie, and I do think that it highlights the connection that we all have with each other and with nature, which is not through that special organ, but we definitely have that beautiful mind that we just spoke about and a heart. And if developed with its full spiritual essence, it does give us a similar kind of connection with our environment. So anyways, I picked this. For me, this movie today is still the most beautiful movie I've ever seen. And if I could put myself in any reality from a fiction, it would be this movie. And I like it for many reasons. Of course, I like it because I come from Indian subcontinent. I grew up there, which was a colonized region by the British Raj. And when you see the movie, you see the struggle between the colonizers for the resources and the colonized population. So it has so many parallels for me because I grew up in a country reading history written from the perspectives from the colonizers. And then I, of course, love this movie because it questions the use of military power to achieve the goals of capitalism and imperialism. And it shows the ecological disregard and the corporate irresponsibility. The movie also touches the themes of ethical and moral decision making. If you have seen it, you will notice that these indigenous people of Pandora, Navi, are presented as morally superior to human beings because they live in harmony with their surroundings, with nature. And to me, they actually resemble somehow Native Americans in some ways, but they show a very, very strong reverence for their surroundings. There is a sacred relationship between them and the surroundings, and I really feel that we all human beings, we also possess it. We just need to develop it with trees and plants and rocks and other humans and each other. I think the movie talks about the absolute stewardship of resources around us and sacredness of life. And of course, it talks about dehumanization of human soul. So there are so many different themes in the movie. I would like you all to talk about three things. So if we go to the Spirituality and Practice website and read the film review for this movie, which we sent you, at the end of that film review, it talks about spiritual lessons from the Navi. And there are three lessons, lessons 7, 8, and 9 in that review, which I want to just open up for discussion. So, one of the lessons is, which is lesson 8, that it's important to listen to the voice of ancestors. And that really touched me deeply, that who the ancestral knowledge, I do believe, coming from my own spiritual tradition, that it is passed on to us in our souls and our spirit, like the knowledge that of absolute hospitality that Rabbi Neil was talking before the class. It has been transferred to us through our souls. And it's not only books that we learn from, we carry it within us. So that's one lesson I want us to discuss. And then there's another very important thing in the movie, which is the spiritual lesson number 7 in the review, about greetings. So a greeting for Navi was a act of engagement with each other. It's a very open and active presence, and their greeting is, if you remember the movie, they greet each other by saying, "I see you." And I find it so beautiful. I mean, I see you, as if I understand you, I get you, I see your soul, I see your heart. And it connected with me because in my culture we have so many different kinds of greetings that we use. And for example, one of them is called ahlan wa sahlan. It's an Arabic word, ahlan wa sahlan, actually 3 words. And generally in books, when it's translated to English, it's translated as welcome. Well, actually, the meaning is not welcome, because ahlan, the word comes from ahl, which means your people, your tribe. And in the context of this greeting, when somebody comes to my house and I open the door, and it's especially for those guests who come to your house to live for a few days, and I say ahlan wa sahlan. So ahlan contextualizes to saying you are among your own people. You're not a guest. You're with your own. You're like family. You're one of ours. And the second word in ahlan wa sahlan comes from sahal, which is ease, or simplicity. And in this context, it's translated as your visit is very simple. It's not a burden on us. So for me, this greeting, ahlan wa sahlan, when we ask our friends to come and stay with us, it's so beautiful, because you're telling them you're one of ours, you're our tribe, you're not a guest, you're not an outsider, and you are not a burden on us. So similarly, I think this greeting, I see you, it's so beautiful. And I want to start this discussion by asking you, what is the significance of a greeting for you? Is there any specific greeting? Do you see any parallels or comparisons in this one? Do you have a special greeting that you use with your special ones that encapsulate your whole mind, body, and soul? So think about the ancestral knowledge and the greeting. And a third very quick lesson that I want to bring from this movie is that Navi says everyone is born twice, once at their birth and once again when he or she finds or earns their rightful place in their own community. So first birth when you're born, and second when you find or earn your place in community. And I also thought that that's a very important lesson from this movie, that it keeps on reminding us that the depth and interconnectedness of our place within our own people. So having said that, I want to open it to you all. A special greeting.
Sophia, several years ago, I went to the Clinton Center to hear a person speak who taught at-risk kids, and he himself had been an at-risk kid. And he said that what he was able finally to discern for himself was that when he could say to a young person, because these were 18, 19-year-old people, "I see you," and they would look up and they realized for the first time, yes, that's what he meant, that he was right there with them. He saw them as they were, accepted them as they were, did not discount them. And he said it was always a beautiful moment. And so this statement reminded me of that.
Sophia, this is Jerry. Listen, I deal with a good friend who deals with homeless. And she says that it's very important to ask them their name because nobody asks them. And that seems to define a relationship between an entity to love and someone else. So, you know, the asking of their name is a welcoming embrace.
Anybody else on your connection with others through a greeting or through
Yes,
something?
I'd like to say about a greeting that I have valued. Living amongst the Zulu culture in Southern Africa for a while, they had a greeting to greet you coming and going. It was Salagatle, which means come with God. Hombagatle means go with God. So instead of just saying hi or bye, they greeted you with and sent you out with this beautiful blessing that you were surrounded in. The divine, in love. It was beautiful. I still think of that.
Yes, Carol, and others on reflections on the movie. Go ahead, Carol.
The expression that you shared so beautifully reminds me of one that we have that is used rarely, but Neil usually uses it when a friend who you haven't seen for a very long time. This is a post-COVID one, I'm sure. You say Baruch Mechayei Hametim. Blessed is the one who restores you to life. It's as though our separation, has put you in the dead letter file, and somehow I just am remembering how much your life has meant to me. Baruch Hametim. So I think that's a treasured blessing that I hadn't thought about until your conversation, but we use it when someone hasn't been connected for a while.
And Carol, you bring another important point, which is intentionality of our greetings. Because if greetings are different for different people at different moments, then intentionality matters too. You also wrote about Navi, meaning prophet in Hebrew. Do you want to talk about that?
Navi is the word we use for prophet. So you would say, Eliyahu HaNavi, Elijah the prophet. And Navi is the prophet. And I don't think it's incidental as a choice of word. So yeah, you use the phrase more in English than we would, right? The prophet so-and-so, the prophet, of course, Muhammad, the prophet, Moses, right? Would say Hanavi, the prophet. So it resonated throughout the movie for us in a beautiful way.
Interesting. Others who have seen this movie, is there anything else that touched you from the movie, from all its themes?
Well, I've not seen it, but I'm just curious. Since there seems to be some intentionality with words, do you think Pandora has anything to do with Pandora's box, you're opening or you're coming into a kingdom that you don't know anything about?
That's interesting. I don't know much about Pandora's box. I see your head. I see Sally. You shaking your head. Do you want to comment on that?
I think it was in Greek mythology, maybe Roman, but Pandora opened the chest and let all the troubles of the world out. And it was kind of an Adam and Eve thing, all the troubles got out of that chest and they never go back in. So yeah, I mean, my first comment in the chat room was what amazing sense of entitlement that the military, that the miners came in and said, well, we're here and we need this, and so it belongs to us, and just get out of the way. So yeah, that was opening Pandora's box when they did that. Asking for trouble.
Interesting. For me, it was all about mystery and beauty and rediscovering where we came from. That's what the Pandora in the movie meant for me. And mystery had been a big element of that. Jay, would you like to comment on that if you have seen that movie?
I have seen the movie. And I want to thank you for bringing up something we too often forget, that the first human beings on the planet, human beings on this planet prior to agriculture, lived in a fair degree of reciprocity with the more than human world. And that's where religion began. Religion did not begin with books. Religion did not begin with the Abrahamic traditions. Myth and storytelling and feelings of kinship with animals and plants, that began long before we had text-based religions of any kind. And I think can we reclaim that kind of wisdom once we have become so absorbed in text-centered, industrial, technologically advanced, capitalist modes of consciousness? Can we reclaim that sense of reciprocity? I hope so. I think our survival depends on it. I hope so.
The movie also highlights that there is a role for everyone in this planet. I mean, this world and life is more like a collaborative work in progress, and we all are co-creators of this universe, in which each individual and each non-individual, like nature, tree, plant, rock, animal, insect, bird, has something to contribute to the larger whole. And I thought that was a very beautiful spiritual concept that we all need to learn to go back to, although we all come from that, but sometimes we forget. So it was a good reminder. Jay, we have a question from you, that what tools would we use to reclaim the relationship that you just talked about?
I think we need to spend more time in the presence of the more than human world. And for some people, interestingly enough, for urban dwellers, one place to begin actually is with pets. And that can sound sentimental, but the fact of the matter is, so many people are not in touch with forms of life that are not human and nonetheless tremendously valuable. And a place to begin, said the animal behaviorist Conrad Lorenz, a place that many people actually begin is with pets. But I also think we need to spend time in the outdoors, and with plants, and with hills, and with rivers. And that can recatalyze, help us reclaim some of those intuitions that were more commonplace in the earlier periods of human history, and actually in rural societies as well. So that's one place. The deep hope is that we can become an ecological civilization where we live in reciprocity with the more than human world and understand ourselves as creatures among creatures on a small and beautiful planet. And unless we can do that, we actually don't have much of a future. So here's hoping. Here's hoping.
Here's to hope. So we are at the end of our time. And if there is a movie that you have seen and it has made you forget that you're sitting in a theater, or if there is a place in your soul which has been touched or enriched by a movie, please email us and be one of the presenters. Otherwise, me and Jay will keep on bringing you 2 presentations every Wednesday about films which have touched us spiritually. So till then, sending love and light to you all. Peace, salam, shalom. I will see you all next Wednesday.